All right, good evening, good evening. It's 7 o'clock. I am back. I was off last week. It feels like I've been gone for like 3 weeks. But 5 weeks in October, and I got to take the last week of October off. So I'm back for November. I will have a presentation every week this month, including Thanksgiving Day. I will not be presenting. I will be presenting on that Tuesday, but you'll all get that information each week, as I get going, but I will be working the week of Thanksgiving as well. But without further ado, let's get started. We will be discussing Leadership 101 this week. It's not going to be very long, guys. The meeting to be, or the presentation to be roughly about 30, 35 minutes tops, or something like that. So let's get going. I'm a little rusty. I've been gone for a week. It literally feels like I've been gone for a month, y'all. This is crazy. But all right, Leadership 101. And if anything happens, let me know in the chat box. We should be good. There's been, it hasn't been too much going on internet-wise, so hopefully we'll be good and blessed this week with no problems whatsoever. But if anything happens, it'll be good. Hey, Makia, do me a favor and type your name in the chat box, and will somebody copy and paste the link, the Poll Everywhere link for Makia, because she's not going to see it again, please. But welcome, everybody from Dr. King. As every week, I tell you who I am. I am a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas. I've lived in the 800 link for 18 years now, and I am a wife and a mother. Educationally, I graduated from Duncanville High School. I have an associate's degree in liberal arts from El Centro College, a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix, and an education doctorate in sports management from North Central University. I consider myself a servant leader, which is actually one of the things that we're going to discuss tonight as part of the presentation. And that means because of that I've had 25 plus years working in corporate America in various industries, 12 years working in higher education, teaching business, management, leadership, human resources, social sciences, humanities, motivation, and professional development courses. I'm a 12-year grassroots girls basketball coach for the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. 12 years working as a parent volunteer for Duncanville ISD, running up on 13 to be exact. I've served as president and vice president of the PTA for Duncanville, for different schools in Duncanville, and then served in various roles for various sports leagues in the DFW resident Metroplex, actually. And hopefully in about a week, I will have some exciting information there. I don't want to say anything before it happens, but considered not coaching anymore. My girls are seniors this year, so I didn't know what I wanted to do with my organization and prayed about it. And literally the next day or the next morning, had an email from the federal government. So there's some good news coming there and some other things coming down the pipeline. So I guess the Lord told me that I went ahead and got that doctorate in sports management. I'm going to use it, which is fine. That was the whole point of it. But there's some good, exciting things coming down the pipeline for me and my coaches. So in about a week, maybe two, I'll have some news for you ladies, and I'll let you know once it happens. As always, what TI Communities Pillars does this presentation focus on? Every week, it will always be education and community. I'm adding an extra pillar off in there, but the primary two will always be education and community building. Thanks, C. I thought I had a chat, I'm sorry. Now, who does this presentation benefit? This presentation will benefit anyone seeking to enhance their leadership skills, be it in school or within their careers. It is open to all ages from the point of understanding leadership concepts, and up to those who are adults. I apologize. Let me turn my my timer on. I always try to be cognizant of my time, and I don't want to ruin anybody's time. And give me just a second because I just messed that up. Okay, there we go. I want to make sure that I have my timer going. Hold on, I hit the wrong. Okay. So when you hear the term leadership, and everybody should be on the Poll Everywhere page now, when you hear the term leadership, what adjectives come to mind? Not just what do you think, but what adjectives come to mind when you think of the word leadership, or think of someone in a leadership position, however you want to consider the term leadership. When you think of leadership or someone in a leadership position or what it means to be a leader, anything like that, what adjectives come to mind? And go. I have confident. We have any more? Uh-oh. I'm sorry, ladies. There we go. I think I messed up the polling. Bold. What are some more? You can put more than one. So whoever's typing, if you have more, keep typing them. When you think of a leader, if you know someone that's in a leadership position, or what do you think when, what adjectives do you think should encompass what it means to be a person in a leadership position? Let's ask it that way. So when you hear the term leadership, what comes to mind? People that are leaders, what are positive or negative? I love the positive ones coming through, but either way, what comes to mind when you think of leadership? I see trusting, organized. Wow. Hold on, y'all. Trying to read and clicking buttons over here. My apologies. Keep going. Your answers didn't go anywhere. I just clicked off the wrong screen. So I see organized, bold, trusting, risk takers. If I don't quit clicking this screen, risk takers. Keep adding them. We'll go on to the next screen and I'll come back to that before we end, but keep adding them. You can add them on that page. It's not going to affect my presentation with you whatsoever. And so let's talk about the definition of leadership. And so leadership by definition, according to dictionary.com, is defined as the person, the position or function of a leader, which is a person who guides or directs a group. So that's just a basic, simple definition. And we're not going to do like we did the last time and have a simple definition and a hard definition. There's really just one simple definition of what leadership means. It's basically the position or function of a leader. Well, who is a leader? A person who guides or directs a group of people. Simple. Synonyms of leadership: administration, authority, influence, command, control, power. Those are all words. Then when you think adjectives, some of them are adjectives, some of them are not, some of them are verbs. But when you think of the term leadership or what a person should be, how it should act and behave in a position of leadership, these are things that come to mind or should come to mind. But what a leader is not and what leadership is not is leadership has nothing to do with seniority or one's position in the hierarchy of a company. You will learn, especially Sarah McKee, as you get older. Sister Thompson already knows this. Most of your leaders in a lot of companies are not even in leadership positions. You can think of that on a team you've been on, in a group that you've been on. A lot of your leaders are really not the people with the titles. Leadership is all about actions and behavior. It's not titles. You can be the CEO of a company and not be a leader. So leadership has to do with your actions and your behaviors in your title. The title alone does not make you a leader. So a lot of times you'll find your leader, especially if you have a job, sometimes a leader could be one of your coworkers. A leader could be a janitor in the school. It just depends on how they act and behave. But a good thing is, when you have a person with a title that displays leadership behaviors and actions, that is wonderful. Wonderful. Not necessarily rare, but most often don't ever get in the mindset of thinking that just because somebody possesses a title on the job, that a leader is who they are. Leading and managing are two entirely different things, and we'll get to that in just a second. And so the history of the concept of leadership. Leadership abilities and the skills that leaders must possess have been discussed since the Chinese rulers were stated to have been trained on what has been coined soft power, which is the ability to use persuasion and attraction to accomplish goals. The best type of ruler was considered one whose existence was barely known by the people he led, he or she. But the ruler was able to use the skills of the people to lead efficiently. Remember that sentence, because we're going to come back to that in just a little bit. Let's read it again. The best type of ruler was considered one whose existence was barely known by the people he or she led. But the ruler was able to use those skills and the skills of the people to lead efficiently. Keep that in the back of your mind. We'll come back to that. Though soft power was a friend in the 20th century to label the type of power that Chinese rulers used, in the United States, this power can also be considered and often paired with in business articles as servant leadership. That's where we're going to start discussing that. We're going to discuss some other leadership roles and characteristics and types of styles, leadership styles in just a second, but servant leadership, keep that in the back of your mind. And so the top 5 skills of a leader, and these are skills that no matter what type of leadership style you subscribe to, you should have these top 5 things about you. The first one is being self-development. Leaders should always schedule time to master their leadership skills. Remember, we talked about professional development and all that. Self-development, you should always, if you want to be a leader, and like I said, it has nothing to do with titles. Leaders continually to enhance and master their leadership skills. They take classes, they read. You know, I have, you guys can see, you ladies can see, I have tons and tons of books on leadership styles, you know, and different leaders and comparing different leadership styles and all that type of stuff. You know, you're always mastering who you are, soft skills. Most often leadership comes with soft skills. We're not talking about hard skills. Hard skills, you know, that's not what we're focused on. We're talking about the soft skills. These are your people skills. Self-development, you're always working on yourself, master your leadership skills. Team development, leaders always have a plan to develop those that they lead. It's not just you developing and mastering and getting better and improving and enhancing and promoting. Leaders also do the same thing with those around them, with the people that they're in charge of leading, whether you're on a team or you have subordinates up under you, you work at a company, they're on a hierarchical leadership profile plan, and you have people that you're in charge of. You're a manager, you're a shift manager, you're just a regular employee. Doesn't matter. Remember, it's not about titles, but you are always developing those around you as well. If you're getting better, that means everybody around you is getting better. And then strategic thinking and acting. Leaders should master their strategic thinking skills. And strategic thinking skills are basically, those are things, let's read the definition. Takes a broad, long-range approach to problem solving and decision making that involves objective analysis, thinking ahead, and planning. And I'm sitting here trying to think of a much easier definition, but that's pretty much what you're thinking are people who are always forward thinkers. They call them innovators. That's what strategic thinking is. And when I was getting my master's, I remember I took a class on strategic thinking. That was from 2003 to 2005. So in that time period, strategic thinking became the thing to do. If you worked in corporate America, you had to have that skill. Everybody was creating courses on strategic thinking, webinars, seminars. There was something, you know, websites there. Everything was popping up on the concept of strategic thinking. And basically, bottom line, baseline definition, these are your innovators, your forward thinkers, people that are able to project and see forward to where things are going and be able to create situations now and put companies in positions and employees in positions now to where they master themselves. You know, that what are you going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years type thing. That's pretty much what strategic thinking is. And then leaders also have ethical practice and civic mindedness, which are leaders set the standards for expected actions and behaviors of their team members and their subordinate employees based on how they act and behave. You can't expect the people that you lead to act a certain way if you don't. What, you know, bottom line, point blank, it is what it is. People, your people, even your friends are, you know, they say birds of a feather flock together. That's about the basic definition of what this is. But if you want the people around you, and especially when you deal with children, you know, I've had, you know, I tell everybody, everything that I try to teach you ladies are things that I've had to teach myself over the years. Some of it is easy, some of it is hard. I'm human and I'm emotional. It is what it is. But especially because I deal with children, I have to always understand that when they see me do things, they consider it to be okay. So I have to make sure, and especially, you know, and it's not just because I'm in front of my girls and things like that, but I always try to make sure that my actions and my behaviors project what I want to see my players behaving as young ladies and eventually grown women. So as a leader, you should be ethical in things that you do. And ethical means doing the right thing all the time, not just when it benefits you, not when other people are watching. Being ethical means that you do the right things all the time. Are we always 100% ethical? No. Strive for 98 to 99. I'll say strive for 97 to 99. It's hard to be 100% ethical. Nobody is 100% ethical but the Lord. So, but when you strive for perfection, you may not get there, but you can almost touch it. And that's kind of what you have to be when you're a leader. You have to display the actions and the behaviors that you expect the people that you're leading to behave. And then civic mindedness, that's where you take your ethical practices and share it with the community. The point of being a leader is to lead others. Granted, it doesn't involve us, but the whole point of leading is to lead others to do the right things. Now, by definition, if we just go back to that definition, let's go back to this definition, the very first definition. Oh, let me go back. Remember the definition. Whoa. The position of the function of a leader, which is a person who guides or directs a group. That doesn't say positive or negative, does it? It just says you are able to guide and direct a group. So unfortunately, by definition, your best leaders, and I'm not being, not being facetious or whatever you want to say it, however you want to say it, but unfortunately, some of your best leaders throughout history have not been the best people. We have some really good leaders, Martin Luther King, ex-President Obama, Michelle Obama. We can throw out, Maya Angelou. We can throw out some really good leaders. Remember, nothing has to do with titles. These are just people who have positively been able to lead. Malcolm X, those are all leaders. But we also got to consider that Trump is a leader for his people that follow him. Hitler, by definition, was a good leader. It's not about what they did. It was what they were able to get other people to do. Leadership is positive and definition. Genghis Khan, all of these awful people and throughout history that were able to get millions of people to do their bidding, by definition, they are good leaders. Not so much in a positive way. By definition, they are. I try to bring it from both directions, positively and negatively. All you have to do is look at the definition. Ethically, those people are not, they had some things they needed to work on or have some things they need to work on to be better leaders, positive leaders. But by definition, even those people are considered good leaders. Why? Because they are able and they have the ability to get people to follow their commands. That's all it takes is to be a good leader. That's why a title has nothing to do with anything. You can sit in the back of a classroom and get people to do your bidding. That's a leader by definition. So that's the whole point of civic mindedness. We want leaders to be positive and do wonderful things in their communities that they reside in, and maybe, some point, some may try to be political. I have no desire to be a politician or do any of that type of stuff. I think the level that I'll probably stop at is maybe community, doing things within the community, but I have no desire to be on the school board or to run for, city office. No. I like to do things where I am, in this, whatever level this is that I am, is what I like to do things in. But I mean, some people do, they take their civic mindedness and they run for office. And I say that now, but you never know. Whatever the Lord wants me to do is what I do. I can't stop that. I can't tell the Lord no, because eventually he's going to make me do it anyway, no matter how hard I fight it. So as of right now, I have no desire to be in any type of political role, but civic mindedness, that's pretty much where that tends to go. Most of your people that work in the community, they do end up being like on the school board, running for mayor, on the city council, running for state offices and things like that. So that's kind of where civic mindedness, it starts low, it goes high, and other people decide to, run for public office and all those type of things. I currently have no desire to do any of that. But then for the fifth top 5 skill, leaders are innovative. So leaders need to be innovative by way of thinking outside of the box and taking risk. And that goes hand in hand with the strategic thinking and acting. You have to be able to take risks. I mean, it's scary, and some of them will work and some of them won't. As a basketball coach and running my own program, I've had ideas just hit the ground. And to me, in my head and the way I put it down on paper, it was all wonderful. But when I started to execute it, not so much. So but you still have to keep going. As much as I've gained, I've probably failed twice as much. So I learned from, and I wouldn't call them mistakes. Some of it just wasn't the right timing. I was trying to do some things and didn't have the right, the certain resources in place, work, but I tried to anyway. So it's not so much that I failed at something. It's just that probably at that time, it wasn't the right time for me to do it. So, anytime you risk, that's what risk is. You risk being positive, you risk things, going the way as planned and working out, and sometimes they don't. But if you don't take that risk, you never know. Risk is 50-50. It's 50-50 you will, 50-50 you won't. It's completely zero if you don't. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to be innovative and think out of the box and just try things. Everything is really a try. It may work, it may not, but at least you try. And so along with those top 5 skills, there are top qualities and characteristics that leaders must have too. And as my pictures say, good leadership is relationally driven. A good leader knows how to deal with people. They know how to build relationships and build rapport and talk to people. And, you can think of whatever leader comes to mind, no matter whether they're good or bad, they were able to develop some type of relationship, either by force or by servant leadership or whatever. But that was one of the things that they can do. But the top qualities and characteristics of leaders, they have integrity. Now, once again, we're discussing positive leaders here. Your negative leaders, not so much with the integrity thing, but your good positive leaders have integrity. They are able to delegate. They're not doing everything themselves. They have people around them that have the skills and the tools and the resources necessary to get things done. So they don't have to do everything themselves. They're able to delegate out responsibilities. They know how to communicate. You got to be able to know how to talk to different people. So good leaders are very good with their communication skills. Self-awareness. They know who they are. They know what their strengths and weaknesses are. They have gratitude, goodly grateful. They're thankful for everything, every chance they're being given, every positive that comes along their way, even every negative. Everything is a lesson. All negatives aren't bad things. Some negatives are lessons. So you have gratitude for the things you've been able to experience. Leaders have learning agility, and learning agility is just to be able to say, I don't know. Learning agility is just a professional way of saying, I don't know, I'll find out. Sometimes you have to say that. I've been able to have to say that as an educator. There are things that my instructor, or my students may come to me and ask me, and sometimes I just literally have to tell them, I don't know, but I can get the answer for you. That's what learning agility is, being able to say you don't know, but being able to also find the answer. And then you have to be able to have influence. And, there's a line, there's a spectrum with influence. But as you grow and network and meet people and learn more and enhance your skills and better develop as a leader, your influence level will go from, this end to the right and grow, and you'll start to influence more people and different types of people. It's not just about influencing people, you're influencing the right types of people, people that can help you, provide resources, introduce you to other people. That's what influence is. You have to have empathy. You got to be able to relate and have compassion with people. Leaders have courage, risk taking. You have to be able to have that courage to take a risk to do something. You fail, you fail. If it's not right at that time, you find that out by taking that risk, but you have to have the courage to take risks. And then leaders are respectful. They give respect, they demand respect. It's hard to not be respectful and not demand that respect back. You give people, like they say, you get what you give. So leaders, if you want that respect, you have to give it to people, even people you don't want to. You don't necessarily have to like somebody, but you do have to give them that level of respect that they demand as well. And so there are some primary leadership skills that, over the years, you'll find, you hear all of these different leadership styles, but at the end of the day, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leadership styles. that have been able to span the test of time. And if you look on here, you will see the years that these styles were created and, created, developed, whatever, however the concept, however you want to name it. But the first three leadership styles that Kurt Lewin is kind of like the father of the concept of leadership as far as United States is concerned. But in 1939, Kurt Lewis, doing his studies and all of that, he's a psychologist, found out that back then there were really three leadership styles: authoritarian, delegative, participative. Most of your leadership styles now are some type of subset of one of these leaderships, these original leadership styles. So the least effective is the authoritarian leadership style. And that, anybody know what authoritarian is? It's autocratic. It's, you're going to do this, and demanding and, degrading people. If you've ever been to, go to a store, those stores that have really bad customer service tends to be because their leadership, managers and all of them, they're authoritarian. They're not what the opposite of that would be participative. They are the opposite of participative, and we get that in a second, but they don't give room for employees to learn. They're telling them what they should do. They're not allowing them to develop. They're not allowing them to understand and gain the knowledge that they need to become better salesmen or customer service reps of that. But the authoritarian leadership style is this style of leadership is strongly focused on both command by the leader and control of the followers. They are in control. Everybody behind them do what he or she is telling them to do. There is also a clear division between the leader and the members. Authoritarian leaders make decisions independently with little or no input from the rest of the group. Like I said, these are the ones they're going to go in the room, think of something, come out and tell everybody what they're going to do. They're not seeking any input from anybody. Just, you're going to do this because I said it. If you don't want to, that's the least effective way of leading. It's still effective, but it's the least effective way. The next one you have is delegative leadership, or laissez-faire. If you ever taken French, you know what laissez-faire is. This is your laid back, it's the, like I said, the least productive style. These are the ones that are laid back. Whatever happens, happens. They ain't trying to assume control of nothing, anybody, whatever. So the laissez-faire delegative leadership style offers little or no guidance to group members and leaves the decision-making up to group members. While this style can be useful in situations involving highly qualified experts, it often leads to poorly defined roles and a lack of motivation. These are people, this leadership only works, like they say, when you're dealing with highly qualified experts. And the reason being is because those type of people don't like to be led. They don't mind working with others, but you can't tell them what to do. So the person that leads them, they're kind of there in title only. And they're just, it's like they're facilitating. They're not leading, they're facilitating the group, but they're helping, they're pulling, they're able to pull out the best in people, but they're not necessarily leading them, they're facilitating the group. And then you had a participant leader style, which is completely on the opposite spectrum from authoritarian. Participative, that's the so it offers guidance to group members. Leaders offers guidance to group members, but they also participate in the group and allow input from other group members. Participative leaders encourage group members to participate, but retain the final say in the decision-making process. Group members feel engaged in the process and are more motivated and creative. This is this end, the good spectrum, the good end. You have authoritarian on this end, the least effective, the most productive is participative. This is the leader that seeks the opinions of the people he or she is leading. They want to, they're going to make the final decision, but they're making the final decision from a list of input and ideas that they're getting from the people they're leading. If you're on a team, from their team members, so they're not just coming up with an idea on their own. They're seeking the ideas and the expertise of the people they work with. And then from that list, they get from that. So then in 1970, Richard Greenleaf came along. Everything going fine, are these three leadership styles and roles were working all the way from 1939 up until about 1970. Richard Greenleaf is an employee, back then was an executive for AT&T. And there were things that he saw that with those 3 leadership styles that he necessarily did not like being a leader for AT&T, being in some, in a leadership executive position for AT&T. So Richard Greenleaf created what is called servant leadership. And so servant leadership focuses on the well-being and growth of people within a community or organization. A leader he considers a leader as a servant first and a leader second. And the focus of the servant leader is to make the needs of the followers first priority. And if the needs of the followers are met, the goals of the community and the organization will subsequently be fulfilled. Servant leadership is one of the theoretical frameworks, because they also have what's called a servant leader theory. And it comes from the servant leadership, concept. But this was one of the theoretical frameworks I used ethics, normative ethics, and servant leadership. Those were the 2 theories that were the basis of my dissertation when I got my doctorate. So I learned a lot of information about servant leadership. It is my preferred style of leadership, how I choose to lead people. And the reason being is because if you take care of the people that you lead first, all of your company or organizational goals will fall into place. It doesn't mean that you're being laissez-faire and just allowing people to do what they want to do. You're still leading, but in any company, you have to first know that your company is only as productive as the employees that are working there. No CEO is the company. No executive board is the company. Your company is only as good as the people on the payroll that work there and do all the work every day. Robots are not the company. So you have to take care of your people first. And then you take care of your people and you're able to get your organizational or company-wide goals, mission statements, values, however you want to put it. Those will actually, that's the fallout from taking care of your employees or the people that work with you. Take care of them first, and everything else. I love it. It works. But even though servant leadership came out in 1970, it is really the newest leadership theory by way of practice. And we'll talk about why in just a second when we talk about another leadership style that has pretty much taken over. But servant leadership is now, you start to hear a lot of company leaders and school district superintendents talk about being servant leaders. Servant leadership, people are starting to realize you can't bark out demands all the time and expect people to do what you want them to do. That was the baby boomer generation. That's how they chose to lead. And they caused people, companies with high turnover rates and all of that type of stuff. And they realized that's not the way you lead a company. You have to take care of your people first. So now you're starting to see a lot of companies come along. Google, Microsoft, all of these companies are starting to invest and master their servant leadership skills. And they're starting to see people stay with them longer. People are not quitting. They don't have high turnover rate. People are enjoying coming to work. They're not going on vacation all the time. They're actually making people take vacations. So servant leadership has its pluses. We'll get to the negatives, talking about transformational leadership in just a second. But servant leadership is the newest leadership practice, even though it's one of the older ones, considering it was created in 1970. And then in 1969, Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard came up with situational leadership. And situational leadership stresses the significant influence of the environment on the situation and the situation on the leadership. So situational leadership is based on, I'm going to lead based on what's going on right now. I'm not going to pick any certain leadership style. I'm going to lead based on what's going on right now. If things are going good, everything's going to be good. If things are going bad, I'm going to pick this leadership style. I may have to be authoritarian, get people in line. If people are being too laid back, I may have to be a little, authoritarian / participative to get people in line, and get things going and get company, So situational leadership is not one defined leadership style. You're directing, coaching, supporting, and delegating. Either one, you're pulling from those different things and leading. You're not subscribing to any one style. You're going back and forth. It's basically you're jumping in between the different leadership styles, doing what needs to be done for that situation going on right then. And as situations change and the environment and the culture of the company changes, your leadership style changes. And so then the next one we have, which is the one that right now is considered the most effective leadership style, is transformational leadership. It was created in 1985 by George Burns. It's the This leadership style sets the standards for expected actions and behaviors of their team members and their subordinate employees based on how they act and behave. Transformational leaders aid their followers into transcending into higher moral ground and higher performance levels through self-accountability, for aiding the company or organization in meeting the goals of both their mission and vision statements. So transformational leaders are somewhat like servant leaders, but unfortunately they're on two ends of the spectrum. Reason being is because transformational leaders are about getting company goals accomplished before taking care of the employees. Employees are expendable with transformational leaders because the whole goal, if you look at the picture, look at this picture and you see transformational leaders are about bringing company goals and mission statements and vision statements to fruition at the expense of the employees. I mean, that's just what it is. And so a transformational leader is one who is considered to be charismatic, a visionary, and is able to create an overall goal of success for the group. Transformational leaders are very good at what they do. You know, they can get people to follow them and they know how to talk to people and things of that nature. But transformation leaders on the job are those who aid their followers in transcending into higher moral ground and higher performance levels through self-accountability for aiding the company or organization in meeting the goals of both their mission and vision statements. I just repeated that from the slide, the definition earlier. They're able to do that. They're able to hold themselves and their employees accountable. They help people advance in promotional ranks, become better people, become better leaders, become better employees. Transformational leaders are leaders first and servants second, and they place company leadership and organizational goals as top priority through the use of motivational techniques of subordinate staff. That's the difference between a transformational leader and a servant leader. Transformational leaders are all about being leaders first and servants to their employees second, and their primary goal is to place organizational goals, mission and vision statement over the needs of the employees. Employees are expendable with transformational leaders. These are unfortunately your baby boomers, that whole baby boomer generation. A lot of the baby boomers that were in positions of leadership were very authoritarian. They weren't participative. They were authoritarian. It was our way or the highway. You did what we told you to do. Authoritarian leaders, baby boomers, they came up with the policies and the rules. They did not seek input from other employees. It was basically, you're going to do this. You're going to use this script. There is no room for improvising. And so even though transformation leadership, the style is effective, it caused high turnover rates in companies. That's where people started job hopping, looking for better pay, going back to school, getting degrees to hire into other companies for positions. Transformational leadership is about promoting, but not necessarily the right way. That's where job hopping and, sharing secrets and that's where companies started coming in with the non-compete agreements, because now you can't work for us and then leave us and go work for the competition because we don't want you stealing our customers. That's all the fallout of transformational leadership. And then the actions of transformational leadership often leads to unethical behaviors committed to achieve the goals listed in the organizational mission and vision statements. Your transformational leaders are the ones who tend to go to jail behind the things that they do on the job. Companies folding. You remember back when a lot of companies started, a lot of CEOs started going to jail, getting federal time, your Bernie Madoffs. Those were all transformational leaders. They were taught and trained by transformational leaders. Unfortunately, transformational leadership tends to lead to unethical behaviors because you're trying to meet the goals of the company, not yours, but the goals of the company. And a lot of times that causes, to do criminal things with the best intentions, but they're still illegal nonetheless. Industry, the companies that were closing, Wells Fargo fired a bunch of employees, managers. The CEO ended up having to lose his or her job. I think it was a guy lost his job. They were all transformational leaders trying to do what was best for the company by increasing the customer base, but they were doing it illegally. and they went to jail for it. Bernie Madoff trying to increase his bank account caused a lot of his friends and families to go broke. Supposed to go to jail, didn't he commit suicide? So it's like they do things and they're trying to do it with the best intentions, but they're not doing it for the right reasons. A lot of times being transformational leads you to go to the dark side, to go to the unethical side. It becomes about money. It becomes about the profit margin. It becomes about bringing in numbers, but not necessarily looking at the quality of what you're bringing in. So transformational leadership, though it's a good leadership style, if not paid attention to, those leaders tend to drift into the dark side, and that's where the problems come in. And so servant leadership. Servant leadership is on the extreme other end of the spectrum from a transformational leader. Remember, look at the picture of the transformational leader. Look at the picture. You see on the left side, you have he's leading, but he's behind, get us up this hill, let's do this. But you also have them on the right side, all of that, browbeating and all of that, or however you want to call it, on the left side going up the hill. It led to those employees being successful. That works with some people and some people it don't. But then look at the picture with servant leadership. In servant leadership, the leader is in the middle. They're helping the people above them, and those people are bringing them forward, and then they're pulling the people behind them and helping them be better people and make them better as well. So servant leadership means that a leader is a servant first and a leader second. The focus of the servant leader is to make the needs of the followers their first priority. Most often you will see servant leadership in the religious industry, religious sectors, your pastors and all those type of things, bishops, and those are people, your deacons, your usher board. Most often servant leadership is something you see in the religious era, industry. But servant leadership has started to transition over into corporate America because people are tired of being browbeat to get their jobs done. You don't want anybody standing over your back and telling you what you need to be doing and what you're not doing. And your employee evaluations are always full of, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. There's never the sandwich technique. The sandwich technique: good feedback, bad feedback, good feedback. That's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. So servant leaders are those that consider, what do I need to do to help my employees, and helping my employees would then result into meeting company goals or organizational goals. So with the servant first mindset, leaders are always tested to ensure that they are putting their followers' needs first by periodically answering the following questions. Number one, do those served grow as a person? So as I'm leading you, are the people I'm leading serving, are they growing? And whatever, is my coaches, leading my coaches, am I helping them grow to be better coaches? Coaching my girls, am I helping them to be good, good players? That's the first question. You gauge yourself by whether or not the people that you're leading are growing positively. Number two, do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? So are you teaching those people that you lead to become servant leaders themselves? Transformational leadership does not do that. It just treats you to be a better transformational leader, which is not always that good. I'm not dogging transformational leadership, but like I said, transformational leadership is about organization goals first and taking care of your people second. Servant leaders, you are taking care of your people first. So am I teaching my players to be better girls, my coaches to be better coaches, better players, better, participatory and good members of society? That's a gauge. Number three, what is the effect on the least privilege in society? So is what I'm doing, how does that help not so much the ones that have, but how am I helping the ones who have not? That's another gauge. How am I helping the least privileged? Good case scenario, you have everything you need, all the resources you need, but we know that that's not the case with everyone. So how is my leadership style and me being a servant leader helping the least privileged that I'm trying to help? And then number four, will they benefit or at least not be further deprived? So am I helping them benefit, or I'm steady drawing on their resources and taking from them what they already have, which is not much to begin with? And even for those that have, Am I depositing into them and growing them, or as they say in the sports world, feeding their emotional tanks, teaching them how to be good girls and, good players and compete and positively? Or am I withdrawing from what resources they have with not depositing into them? And am I making them worse than what they are? Or am I making them better? Am I making them better people, or am I making them worse people from where they currently are? So those are the 4 questions that any servant leader will ask themselves, periodically, to make sure that they're doing right by the people that they work for and work with. And then the logic of servant leadership is this: if the needs of the followers are met, the goals of the community or organization will be subsequently fulfilled. Why? Because people want to come to work. They want to, my players, they want to come to practice. My coaches, they want to come and coach. We want to be together and play and travel and play because they're having fun. They're learning. I have a player, her mom calls me all the time, and you never know the impact as a coach of what you have on a player until those players are not with you and they're with other people. And one of my players, her mom calls me at least once a week and tells me how myself and my coaching staff have fed so much and poured so much into this child that when she's with other coaches and with other teams, it annoys her that there is not the structure there that she has when she's with us. And that makes me feel good because that means that I'm doing right by her. She gets mad when the structure is not there when she's with her other teammates or with her other coaches that are not part of our organization. It angers her, when other players don't have court IQ and they don't understand the different offensive and defensive schemes and strategies and plays and things. It annoys her when players don't take playing basketball seriously. I know I taught my girls playing basketball is a benefit. That's a God-given talent. And the Lord takes away what you are not grateful and humble for. So, it angers her when she's around other players that are not humble to be able to play basketball. So when her mother calls and tells me these things, it makes me feel really good because that means I've done right by her. Doesn't mean I haven't done right by my other players, but her mother actually tells me how what we've done with her for the last 10 years is coming out in every way, even in her schoolwork, but more importantly, not in schoolwork, wonderful. I'm an academic, awesome. But more importantly, when she's with other coaches and when she's with other players, everything that we've taught her and fed into her comes out of her when she's with other people. And as a coach, that makes me feel really good. So I consider myself a servant leader. I consider myself, everybody that I come in contact with and like I say, people I touch, not physically, but people I touch hypothetically and metaphorically, that I'm doing good by them. Am I for everybody? No, don't care either. But for those who understand me and understand what I'm trying to do, I'm glad that what I'm doing is helping them. That's every leader's dream, is to know that what we are doing is positively impacting somebody. Even the bad leaders feel that what they're doing is positive. We wouldn't, leaders wouldn't lead if they didn't think they were doing something positive. But I am a positive leader, and I feel that every time I get a story where I've touched one of my players or touched one of my parents, or I hear a coach talk about me to other coaches or whatever, my players talk about me to other players or other coaches, it makes me feel good because they're talking about me in a positive light. And that's what I hope I want. I'm doing by them to the extent that when I hear my name called, it's a positive thing and not a negative one. So that's servant leadership. And so, like I said earlier, there's a difference between leading and management. Not all leaders are in title positions. Your coworker sitting next to me, your classmate sitting next to you, or whatever can be a leader. So the difference between a leader and manager are such that leaders innovate and managers administer. Remember, I said as a leader, you got to be innovative and have courage to take risks and do things. Managers, is not that they don't have that, but managers don't innovate. They're there to act out and bring to fruition the goals of a leader. So when the leader comes up with these innovative things to do, it's the manager's job to make it happen. Leaders develop, managers maintain. The leaders develop the programs, it's up to the managers to make it happen and maintain it and keep it going. Leaders inspire, managers control. Leaders inspire other people to become leaders themselves and go out and tackle the world. Managers control. They want to be the authoritative type of person. They want to tell you what to do, when to do it, and often that's their job description. Managers are the ones that make the schedules on the job, so they're there as the authoritarian. It's not that leaders are not, but your manager tends to be the authoritarian on the job. Leaders have long-term view. They're looking out, seeing what can happen 5 years from now, from where we currently are, where can we be 5-10 years from now. Managers have a short-term view. They're looking at, what am I doing with my employees next week? Am I going to have everybody on the payroll next week? Managers have a short-term view. They don't get to think long-term. They can only think short-term because of their job description and what they have to do. Leaders ask what and why. What do I need to do? Why do I need to do it? What can be done? Why do we need to do it? Why does it need to be done? Managers ask, how do we do it? When are we going to get started? How should I do this? When is it going to end? So difference. Leaders originate, managers initiate. Leaders are the ones that come up with the forward-thinking ideas. iPhones. Nobody considered creating an iPhone before he did. Unfortunately, he passed away. But that's origination. The iPhone was an original idea that now everybody has come out to try to beat the iPhone, but there's always one originator. Everybody else is a duplicator after then. All they're trying to do is make what you created better, but that doesn't make them better because they didn't think about it first. Managers initiate. They take that original idea and they implement and initiate how it's going to play out. Leaders challenge the status quo. Rules are made to be broken. How can we do this better? How can we change this? Do we even need this? That's leader question. Managers accept the status quo. We do this because it's the way it's done. This is what policy says should be done. There is no policy for that. We can't do that. The policy says you have to do this. See the difference? And then leaders do the right things at all times. What I say, 98% of the time, 99% of the time, let's even go 95% of the time. But leaders do the right things all the time, or majority of the time. Managers do things right when it serves to benefit them. It is what it is. They do things right when it serves to benefit them or the people they're leading. They don't do the right things all the time. It doesn't mean they don't do the right things. It's just that they do the things right more than they do right things. And that's where the ethics comes in. Doing the right things and doing things right, that's your ethical moral foundation. So that's the difference between leading and managers. Those are the primary things. We come up with a whole list of more, but those are your primary differences between leaders and managers. And that's the end of our program, of our presentation tonight. As always, I have my references. And as you ladies can see, if you look on this too, 3 down, I actually got to use my dissertation in this presentation, and I am so happy. I am ecstatic when I get to use the information that I created in one of my presentations. And leadership that's one of the things that I'm trying to improve upon in sports leaders, just, globally, not even just in the Metroplex, but globally. So I was able to use a lot of the information that I used to work on my dissertation. So I got to cite and reference myself this week. I am so happy. There will come in some more coming down the line, but this is the first time that I've actually been able to cite and reference my own work, which was happy because earlier this week I found out that one of the top sports science minds in the world has recommended my doctoral dissertation or thesis, or however you want to place it, as a means for people to use to research and work on their own doctorates, or if you're in the sports management or just in sports administration. He recommended my information in my doctoral thesis as positive and good information to use for yourself. And that is a wonderful thing. As an academic, we always want our work to be seen by other people, and it has been. And so I'm blessed for that. But does anybody have any questions on anything that is going on? You ladies tend to roll with me every week, so hopefully I'll answer everything in the presentations, and you really don't have any questions. But does anybody have any questions this week? I don't see any. Next week, like I said, these 4 weeks I am working all month. And so next week we have being a leader, but knowing when to follow. If you have a question, type it in the chat box and I'll get to it. I'm not ignoring it. But we got about 5 minutes. I actually did do good today. Being a leader, but knowing when to follow. Sometimes leaders have to be followers. That's next Thursday at 7 o'clock on Zoom. And then as with anything, you know, if you need to contact me, it's 800-educator Bridget at TIcommunities.com, or you can find me on Facebook.com/Dr. Bridget M. King, EDD. Some of you, you know, you all know me, so you can call me. You know, but if you have any questions or anything, you know, contact me the best way that you know how, but those are the primary ways. And so that is this week's presentation. Let me get you the link to the survey. I was like, what am I doing? Get you the link to this week's survey. Let me post that to you right chat box. There we go. Let me end the screen sharing. There we go. So that's the link to this week's survey. The event is Leadership 101. And as always, it's going to be, well, thank you, Sister Thompson. As always, it's going to be community building and education. So, but that's the topic this week. I being out for a week, I tell y'all, I feel like I've been gone for 3 weeks. But Leadership 101 is what we're doing next week. We're going to focus on being a leader, but knowing when to follow. I thank you ladies for coming. Oh, wait, hold, don't go nowhere. I forgot to take my picture. Makia left before I could get a picture of you ladies. Everybody else had something to do this evening, and that's fine. You know, I'm not upset about it, but I'm glad you ladies were here. As always, thank you. It's 7:56, so I got to wrap this up and close it out before Zoom does it for me. So I thank you ladies for being here tonight. I love you. I'll see you next Thursday. And like I said, if you need anything, let me know. If you need the link once I close this out, let me know and I'll send it to you. But thank you so much. Appreciate you. Love you. And see you later. Bye-bye.